One of the fascinating thing about octopus are how adaptive they are. And that's sort of a lesson in life as well, because one of the reasons why humans evolved to the top of the food chain is because of our adaptability. Sure, we don't have the same adaptability skills when it comes down to the physical body per se, but we do have mental adaptability. And it's fascinating that how adaptability could uh, take you on the topmost um, level at whatever you are looking to master in. I mean, it's not a secret. Like all the successful people who actually achieved something from nothing to everything, they adapted so many different iterations of what they were doing throughout their success period. And that's the key adaptation of the right model, so to speak. And I get it. It's sort of painful, firstly, to figure out, like, what exactly is the right adaptation, because in any given situation you may have like the right thing and the wrong thing, and depending on which factor you adapt into, you may have like entirely different result or outcome. So I totally get that. uh, I believe adaptation is definitely better than not adapting at all. People who are rigid end up being bitter, isolated, uh, I don't know, maybe losers in a lot of sense. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can imagine so many different areas of my life where I can call myself as a loser, in the sense, like, I haven't progressed in a while. But the key is, like, I'm still working on it. I'm adapting to various mindsets. I'm changing my lifestyle every single day. I'm focusing on growing every single day, and that's the key, at least in my head, for everything. Um, it takes a while for sure, especially when it comes down to adapting the skill set which I don't have at the moment. And that's where it comes down to trial and error. So the more I'm gonna try out any skill set, the more errors I'm gonna do and learn from those errors. Um, that's such a great feedback loop. If you're an engineer, you would understand that just by trying different aspects, different iterations, you will eventually get better. And that's a core concept of machine learning as well, because it keeps on trying, and it's such a super computer that it takes lesser time for it to master any skill set than us do. But at the same time, it's modeled after life itself. In a lot of ways, evolution is nothing but machine learning, right? Because evolution is constantly adapting, it's constantly learning from the previous iteration, what worked, what didn't work, and then build onto that. And that's why you would see so many patterns in evolution, not just across historical patterns in the same species evolution, but also patterns across, or common patterns across various species. Um, and the beauty of evolution itself is that it's so diversified that you could see data from various species life, or generations of life, and based on that you can learn something about um, maybe the nature of nature. Because if it's grilled into any species lifestyle, that means it's part of nature. In a lot of ways, everything we do is a part of nature. But what I mean by that is, for instance, if you look at bees, they are fascinating creatures. They have their own matriarchal society where there is a queen bee and more soldiers, and then most of the other are workers who work hard to just get honey and feed the queen bee. So they have this whole system modeled, and you could see some iteration of that in companies, in monopolies, where the workers are nothing but disposable um, beings who have to go out and work hard to bring back the juices, and all of that juice is handed out to the queen bee, so to speak. Uh, and on similar end, there are different species which are matriarchal and patriarchal, and every species have their own patterns, evolutionary patterns, and it's fascinating to just study that. And one of my favorite species is octopus. Even though I feel that octopus could have been one of the most intellectual, as well as I would say best species, for lack of better word, clearly lack of better word, because octopus have such a unique physical uh, body, that they can sense their environment through their tentacles. So it's more like, feeling the environment through your hands and legs, which you do. But imagine you have like the same brain neurons, the neuron cells which you have in your brain, spread across your arms and legs, and with that you would be not just able to sense the environment, but also think through your hand and legs, rather than think through your brain, and which circulates or which commands your body to take or do specific action. So it's fascinating to see a being who evolved in a way that they have neuron cells spread across their body. And we can model some of that aspect, in the sense we can um, constantly adapt, learning from octopus, I guess, because having these neuron cells all across their body would not just adapt to the environment. They can shape shift in a lot of ways. They can change the color of their skin. They can change how their body could look like from different angles. So their body could look like rigid stones or corals or whatever when they are in the middle of the ocean, and it could turn to like a smoother surface in a matter of seconds. So that's the amount of time it takes to adapt and change. And although we take a longer period of time, because we need a lot of time to process and also come to an understanding, and then maybe become aware of the circumstances and then consciously change. But in a lot of ways we have this innate uh, ability to change within us as well. uh, I mean, honestly, last weekend was one of the magnificent experiences of my life. In a lot of ways, I would like to imagine that I discovered a new facet of my personality, because last weekend, because I took psychedelics, I felt so afraid. So I was so scared of my insecurities, of my fears, that I literally shrank. And I remember, like, by the time I came back home and lied in my bed, that there were even moments when I maybe like shed tears, because I was so much in despair. But at the same time, I felt like uh, like a caterpillar turning into butterfly, eh, if that makes sense. I think it's called metamorphosis, if I recall correctly. But that's what I felt, because I had to let go of that part of me who was insecure and scared, and then change into this newer person, newer being. And I'm constantly working towards that as well, because now when I'm scared of anything, when I'm insecure of anything, I want to just face it head on, because that's what we should do. Face our fears, face our insecurities head on, because that gives our brain new set of data, and that also send a message to our brain that we are adapting to this new environment. I'm scared of something. Okay, I'm gonna adapt myself into that environment, and I'm gonna modify my behavior. I'm gonna modify my mindset, my attitude, and act or react in a specific way. And surely it's gonna take a while. Hopefully not long time, but it will take a while, because I've been engraved with these patterns, the past patterns of whatever insecurities or fears I've had. But at the same time, with this new tool set, or mindset rather, I am able to tap into something within me and just change it. Um, in a lot of ways, I'm celebrating my losses, I'm celebrating my rejections, I'm celebrating my disappointment, I'm celebrating my insecurities, my fears, because these are all supposed to be celebrated. I know in our current culture and society, we are fixated on success so much that we choose to not celebrate the failures, whereas the failures are the foundations on which successes are built. I mean, no successful person became successful by winning everything. Uh, I doubt it. Maybe there is some super genius, but even then, they must have encountered some sort of failure in some area of their life, and that's the truth of of our life, because all success is based on the new learnings, and one would learn only when we go through the suffering of failure, of disappointment. And sure, there are people who learn from their successes as well, and that's actually amplify your learning method, your adaptability and whatnot. But I believe that failures should be celebrated. In a lot of ways, I was watching this random TED talk other day, and the speaker, she was um, describing her childhood, where her dad used to ask her every single day what she failed at, and they used to celebrate that failure. And that sort of resonated with me so much, like, yeah, we should celebrate the failure. And I also sort of learned about this concept from various activities and various boot camps I attended in the past. But the point being, it feels like now it's sort of absorbed into me, where I'm willing to celebrate failures rather than just celebrate success. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to lose. It doesn't mean I'm a loser. And even if that mean I'm a loser, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's just a label. And that's a label which either I'm putting in my head or someone else is putting in my head. So if I am putting a label of loser in my head, then that also means I can change it. I can change it by taking a baby steps towards a specific goal. And I can reframe it, like what it means to be a failure or what it means to be successful. And like I said, something in me kind of switched in last week, where instead of focusing on what I failed to do, I am just focusing on how much progress I'm making. And failure is a part of it. Failure is something to be celebrated, not frowned upon. And I can only imagine how nature or evolution might work in this context, because evolution or nature is constantly failing. It's, I mean, even within human species, we are constantly failing. There have been so many different civilizations, some civilizations which left a mark in the human history, and other civilizations who just existed and uh, extincted in some ways without anyone knowing about that civilization at all. So that's what would you call it? Maybe it's a failure. Maybe it was an experiment of some sort, and it's just lost in time, and that's what gonna happen to most of us. I mean, I understand that we are living in this interesting information age where we can post anything online, and in a lot of ways this will be our legacy which will be left behind, because everything which I'm recording here and leaving it out there will remain online as long as internet will exist. And it doesn't matter if I cease to exist tomorrow or 50, 60, 70 years from now. 70 might be a stretch, but whatever. um, it this information gonna remain unless it's deleted, like at times, like if my YouTube channel, if my Instagram page, and all of my social media in general is lost, then all of this is gone. It's as perishable as my life is. It's gone. It's not going to be there forever. And that's the nature of life, that it's perishable. It's gonna have a temporary timeline, and after that it's gone. All of this kind of reminds me of this one of my favorite TV shows, Midnight Gospel, and the title song, I believe, of that show is that all of our dreams will be washed away. So, which is so beautiful, because no matter what we do, what we say, what we label ourselves as, these all will be washed away. Um, Maybe in 50 years, maybe in 100 years, maybe in 1,000 years, or at the most, maybe in a billion years, when the sun and the earth and all the other planets will eventually go through their own changes at the cosmic level and gonna cease to exist in how we know it, and yeah, then all of this will be gone anyways. So pretty much our entire life, our entire understanding of life, our dreams, our concepts, our money, our career, our relationships, our, you name it, is gone. That's in a lot of ways it's beautiful, because the temporariness of the life makes it beautiful, because then I would be able to value it in moment to moment, rather than taking it for granted, which is what I've been doing, or which is what I did for most of my life, taking things for granted. And I had my fair share of lessons in that sense, and I'm sure I'd still take a lot of things for granted, and in a lot of ways that kind of scares me. For instance, one of the things which is bothering me for past maybe year or so is this aging, because sooner or later I will age. I mean, this is something which is out of my hands, in the sense, like, my biological age will be ticking no matter what, even though I can work hard to remain fit, to remain healthy, to remain sane, but my biological age will still be ticking. That is something I started accepting, and it doesn't mean that I'm like feel old or anything. Even though I mean, in here I'll always be 25, but whatever my biological age might be. But the point being that I'm coming to this understanding, this acceptance that my body, my age, my mind, all of these are temporary aspects of life, and I want to make the most of it. I want to experience the life in the most, at the most, and yeah, it and like I said, my definition of life also constantly evolve and change and whatnot, and at times I end up wasting time, which always in hindsight I sort of regret, uh, especially when it comes down to wasting time by watching something which I don't even remember, neither do I feel, or maybe I felt entertained in the moment, but I don't remember in the long term. Um, or maybe I haven't found the value in, say, watching specific TV show or something. Because I personally think that stories are important. Stories are something which keeps us connected to each other, to the world, to the universe. Because stories are something which our brain are uh, programmed to understand. That's why we do end up creating stories, right? Where there is none, even there we find patterns and create this unique narration and story within our head to make sense of the world. So stories are important, super important, and that's I totally get it why I'm automatically driven to watch some TV show or a movie or sports or whatever. Um, but that doesn't mean that I need to spend most of my time experiencing or absorbing a virtual world rather than living through a real world, because there are constant stories in the real world as well. And for instance, I had a beautiful story for tonight. And I'm sure like I'm gonna have a wonderful story tomorrow and the day after and the day after. And probably that would be one of my goals, to have like a beautiful story every single day. And beautiful in the sense it doesn't have to be astonishing or outstanding, but it just have to be a story in a format which I should feel satisfied and fulfilled by experiencing it or while recalling it. And that's one of the reasons why I love stand-up comedy. Because every single day when you go to any open mics, it's a unique story. It's a new story because when you are holding a mic and expressing in front of crowd, you're interacting with a unique energy. You're interacting with energy of the crowd. You're interacting with these whatever is going on throughout that day, and it gives this unique flavor to that story. And I'm sure there are other areas of life which gives similar experience. Maybe it's like singing or dancing or sports. Sports is one of the major experience, right? Because at least in music and stand-up comedy, the artist can repeat it themselves. But in sports, even though the artist or the sports person, they try to play the same level of game every single time, but the situation changes. And that newer situations or newer variables, so to speak, create a unique blend. And which is again true for most of the other arts too, like like music and stand-up comedy, but it's still more repetitive than sports, which is more unique, even though you have a repetitive set of actions, I guess. But the point being that we are living in this amazing reality where it's constantly adapting, shifting, changing, whatever the terms which resonate with you. And it's empowering because you are adding to that change. I mean, maybe to different degree, to different intense intensity, but you are actually adding something to this constantly evolving world. And you always have a choice. You have a choice to add something meaningful or add something, I don't know, destructive in some sense. So add something constructive or add something destructive. And that is entirely up to you. And that sort of depends on your mindset as well. So it breaks down to the same mindset of being optimist or pessimist or realist or whatever that means, and so on. So, but you're constantly adding something in this reality. And don't get me wrong, even when you're gone, you'll still be adding something back to the reality. May not be as frequently as you would while you're surviving, because you're living every single day, so you're experiencing or interacting with the world every single day, so you're constantly adding or yeah, adding something to the reality every single day. But once you'll be dead, um, maybe your words will inspire your friends to take a specific action. Maybe your uh, maybe the time you spent with the loved ones will bring joy in their life whenever they think of you once you're gone. Or it could be other way around too. Maybe your maybe your thoughts, maybe the thought of you might bring um, trauma and make someone disappointed or sad whenever they think of you. Again, it bubbles down to how you're interacting with the reality, and that's where one of the things which I want to practice is to constantly add value to the reality. Even when I'm feeling down, especially when I'm feeling down, want to just be there and be in my most positive sense. And in a lot of ways, that's what service is, right? And I I'm inspired, oddly inspired by the people who give in everything to serve others. And honestly, I'm not there yet. I'm such a selfish person in that aspect. Uh, and I know I could do more, a lot more. Um, but the point being that people who act from service, they are constantly making the world a better place to live in, regardless of whatever is happening around the world, regardless of how many people are um, messing up the world, regardless of the policies which are in place which are screwing up the world. And these are all real issues, and at in a lot of ways these are heartbreaking issues too, because for instance, if you're trying to make a world a better place by mitigating the climate crisis, the speed at which you are mitigating your personal or offsetting your personal carbon footprint on this planet is negligible compared to how much amount of carbon is being added in on the planet every single day. So your carbon footprint is negligible compared to uh, whatever is happening around the world. But you still have ability, you still have power to control your actions, to be mindful of your actions, and take necessary actions to offset your carbon footprint by playing your role, by playing your part rather, and doing what you could by doing the right thing in in your own life, and regardless of whatever is happening across the world. And that's in a lot of ways I feel that's what karma is. At times, like, you don't have control over the entire world. You can't control the entire world, even if you are the most powerful person on this planet in terms of like political leader or some sort of cultural hero. You still can't control the entire world. Maybe you can influence a lot of areas of the policy aspect or the cultural aspect, but you still won't be able to control the entire world. And the people who try to gain that power, in a lot of ways, are miserable because they are chasing something which couldn't be attained. And even if they did attain it, let's just say even miraculously, there is this specific event in in this reality where they can control every aspect of the reality, then what? What's the point after that? Like, even if they shape the world the way they want to, what's next? What's after that? Nothing, because at some point they will start feeling empty, and that's that's what happened to most of us who start feeling depressed after we attained a level of success. And I've been through this stage, in not in every aspect of my life, but in some aspect I've been through these stages, and I've been through the depression of all of it, because at some point I've achieved, I wouldn't say achieved, but I experienced a set of different things. Like, I had enough money, where I don't have to worry about my lifestyle. I had enough security. I had enough access to various tools. I had enough of a lot of different things in my area of life at the time. And then I was sort of miserable because I still didn't have that purpose. Like, what's now? What's next? I mean, sure, I can get more money. I mean, sure, if I have, I don't know, $10,000, and maybe I can get $100,000, then what? Maybe like $1 million, then what? 10 million, 100 million, a billion? And at some point I'll be like, okay, what's after this? Money can bring in security of different levels, but once you attain that, what's after that? It still doesn't fulfill that purpose. Money or fame or relationships or you name it, whatever maybe your thing that can help you to level up, for sure, and attain that, for sure. I mean, it can fuel you to chase that particular goal and attain it. But once you attain it, and if you still feel unfulfilled, then what's the point of attaining it in the first place? I'm not saying there is no value at all in setting these goals, because that would be absolutely incorrect. Because these are definitely something to look up for, to aspire in life. again, it comes down to, like, security and relationships and various experiences and whatnot. But at the same time, attaching our personal well-being and happiness to these goals will only give us a temporary satisfaction, and would lead up to a depressive state. And like I said, I've been through that, and at some point I was so hopeless in a lot of ways that I was like, okay, what's after this? I mean, I got all of these things which the society thinks and says that will help you to have a purposeful life, and I attained those in to again to a lesser degree. And then I was like, what next? I mean, I still don't feel it, and that's where my mindset shifted, especially after I went through this depressive state and then did ayahuasca. And ayahuasca was a very, very interesting experience, because it sort of was a rebirth uh, of who I am. And I still remember after coming back from ayahuasca Germany, Germany, ayahuasca's journey, I was actively experiencing or seeking out various experiences, and I was looking at the world, the reality, from this innate childlike curiosity which I lost at some point. And even now, I have to keep reminding myself that uh, the keep reminding myself to be curious about the world, to be curious about lot of things in my life. And don't get me wrong, I'm not there yet. I'm not completely fulfilled. I'm not completely uh, happy, successful. You name it. These are not the um, labels which I can wear or I'm comfortable to assign myself. However, I did find the peace, the happiness, the success in a lot of different moments in day to day life. And that's where one of my life attributes of creating daily rituals and following through on those daily rituals come into picture. Because over the years, I observed that I won't remember what I did a year from now, or like I don't remember what I did this time last year. But the only way I could go back and check is if I fulfilled all of my daily rituals, then it was a successful day. And likewise, if I fulfill all of my daily rituals today, this is going to be a successful day. Although I doubt it, I still have a few more rituals to take care of, and it's already 4 a.m. So I don't know if I'll be completing all the rituals. But the point being that these rituals gave me a direction to find those moments of satisfaction, moments of peace, moment of fulfillment in my day-to-day life, instead of like chasing for one goal and find a gratification or instant gratification by attaining that goal, and then fall apart in the sense, what next, like chase bigger goal and do the same thing. uh, Rather than that, I found a meaningful way, at least in my own life, to just look up for moments of these peace and fulfillment and success, and just give a new story to my brain. And it's so different for the wild beings, right? Because for them, they have the basic natural uh, goals, I guess, like, just chase for food. uh, Once they have food, look up for mate. Once they have mate, uh, look up for security, prevent themselves from any predators, and constantly keep moving to find new source of food and mate and whatnot. And that's, in a lot of ways, that's what being in the present moment is. Because when you're in this present moment, you would realize everything going around in this specific moment. And you don't have access to everything which is going on in this specific moment. No, you don't. You have access to your immediate environment for sure. But just imagine, in this very moment, a lot of things are happening all across the globe. Um, there are constant deaths happening in this moment. There are constant births happening in this moment. There are moments. There are people and beings who are celebrating in this moment. There are people and beings who are grieving in this moment. There are, I don't know, there, everything possible you have experienced in your life is happening in this moment to someone else, somewhere else, in some to some other degree. And that's beautiful, that's fascinating, because everything and nothing is happening in this very moment. And that's a powerful imagination in a lot of ways, or realization, which we can attain, because every moment is precious, because maybe it's not happening to me, but it's happening to someone else. And that sort of goes for both the good and the bad. And it sort of gives you a perspective. Like, if you feel on top of the world, that's amazing, that's a beautiful experience for sure. At the same time, there is someone who's going through at the bottom of the world, and for them it sort of sucks, and I hope that they come out of it soon enough. And likewise, if you are going through the bottom of the world, then it sucks. And but you can picture that someone is going through the top of the world at this moment, and that should be inspiring, or hopefulness that you would be able to come out of that bottom of the world as well. Because at the end of the day, every single thing is temporary. You, me, every moment we experienced, our shared moment, our solitude moment, every single circumstances we endured, all of these are temporary. And again, it's sort of hard to kind of um, think about it and wrap our mind around it. But once you do, once you realize that, life becomes sort of easy. It still gonna have its painful moment, its pleasurable moment, but it becomes easier to deal with it, because you understand that whatever you're feeling right now is temporary, and you don't get attached to that feeling, because at the end of the day, attachment is what drive misery. Because if you're attached to a specific outcome, then you're literally placing your happiness to that outcome. On similar line, if you're attached to a circumstance, a person, then you're tying an outcome, an expectation of those person and circumstances, and it may or may not happen. And if it does happen, then again you could be like ecstatic about it, and if it doesn't, then you'll be disappointed and sad about it. So the best strategy is to be equanimous in every single moment. And I know it's very difficult to do, and I'm not saint, I'm not some yogi, so to speak, who could detach myself from every single moment. I have my happy, sad, disappointing, fearful, courageous, all kind of moments in day-to-day life. And the way I see is to embrace it for sure, and also be equanimous about it. Like, sure, whatever is happening, it's happening. Um, I would be at a better place by not attaching myself to that particular moment, situation, person, whatever it might be. And that's where Vipassana meditation come into picture. It's a good training for my brain to uh, be equanimous in every single moment, and especially when you're meditating. And in a lot of ways, as boring meditation as Vipassana, which is basically just sitting with your eyes closed and focusing on your breath and body sensations. Um, Whereas there are other type of meditations like focused chanting meditation, where at least you're saying something, and you'd be able to bring yourself back into that chanting mode. Likewise, there are dancing, like Sufism sort of meditation, where you could be like, just moving, just twirling around, I guess, and focusing on the movement of your body and the energy within your body, and that takes you to this meditative state. I can imagine. I mean, I'm not a Sufi, so I haven't done that meditation, so to speak, but I can only imagine about that. And likewise, there are meditation practices like candle meditation, so to speak, so you can just focus on one specific point of reference. So whenever you do um, get distracted, you're bringing your focus to that one point of reference. So there are different ways to meditate, and Vipassana is definitely one of the simplest as well as boring meditation, because all you need to do is, like, focus on your breath, and then build onto that and start focusing on the sensations around your nasal area, then sensations throughout your body. And even though you're sort of like scanning through your body sensations, you will encounter a pleasureful sensation and a painful sensation. And that's where you would have to cultivate this equanimous state or equanimity, where you have to just observe those sensations without getting attached to any of those. I mean, pleasureful sensations are easy to get attached to, obviously, because who don't want to live in those pleasureful sensations? And on similar line, painful sensations is something easily to be averse of, because you don't want that sensation. In a lot of ways, that's an attachment of not having something. Um, and both of these sort of pile onto each other, and eventually weigh you down. But once you start observing these sensations equanimously, then it will, in a lot of ways, dissipate within your body. These sensations will, and it will feel lighter. And I can't tell you how many times I meditated and felt lighter after the entire hour-long session. Even though, don't get me wrong, like, I would say 70% or maybe 80-90% of the time I'm like in my own imaginative state while meditating. So it is very difficult in that sense, but it's not difficult, because all you need to do is like just sit and observe, and as the thoughts arrive, just observe it, let it go. And that's the best form of training you could train yourself, because these thoughts, which are in a way temporary and in a way mysterious, because no one knows how actually the thoughts arise. It could be combination of environment, combination of your mindset, combination of the circumstances, combination of people. There are so many different variables which triggers these thoughts. And once you start attaching yourself to these thoughts, it becomes sort of a form of your ego. And that's where just observing these thoughts and letting it go sort of helps you to ease it down, because you're not then attached to your thoughts, you're not married to your thoughts. And it also helps you because you will learn how to let go, and which you can add on to the other areas of your life. So it's not just letting go of your thoughts, but also letting go of someone else's thoughts, in the sense that what someone else might have said to you, or what someone else might have made you feel. All of those emotions and thoughts are built within us, and just by practicing meditation and observing the thoughts and letting it go, help you to practice how to effectively let go of these emotions and thoughts. And that's where the most of the work is, because then you raise yourself to a higher frequency, in metaphorically, I guess. Like, I don't know how that how or what that means literally, but in a lot of ways you tend to be more calm even around the chaos. So when you're experiencing any uncomfortable situation, you'd be able to calm yourself down, because you would be able to let go of these thoughts and these emotions and these feelings easily, because you trained yourself. I guess without any overdue, I'm gonna start meditating for the next hour. And it is pretty late. It's almost 4:20.